The bandits don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. As far as they know, they're performing banditry on the highways, preying on merchants and getting the loot and getting paid for this. They really don't know much beyond that. But the players, as they investigate and put down these bandits and track them down to the moat house and then track down Larth down below, they start unraveling this mystery. What's really going on? Who's behind all this? Welcome back to the Three Orcs channel. This is David, and today we're on update number 10 for the Verbobonc Campaign Guide 576 Common Year website. This is the website you can use to run the Temple of Elemental Evil campaign. This is a sort of sandbox that details out all the cities and villages in the area, just like the village of Hamlet is. That way, you can actually pull in all the organizations and NPCs in the area of the large cities nearby, like Divers and the city of Verbobonc, and also the small villages. That way you can pull the NPCs into the campaign so you can run side quests or side missions that have anything to do with the Temple of Elemental Evils, the temple's activities in the area, because the temple is growing. The temple needs funds, slaves, fodder, and recruitment, and they want to do this without tipping off the good guys in the area to put a stop to them, because as far as everybody knows, the temple has been put down 7 years ago after the Battle of Emridy Meadows. So what they're doing is they're rebuilding without anybody knowing about it. And really the only way to be able to pull that off is to have somebody really powerful, somebody high up, that has the capability of supporting them without tipping off the good guys. And usually that would be a noble or a really rich, powerful merchant, and probably with the assistance of other organizations out there, like UIS and other cults. That's why originally I used to call my campaign the Cults of Greyhawk, because basically that's what the world of Greyhawk is really just a bunch of cults. You know, you got the good guy cults and the bad guy cults. You got the Circle of Eight. You have all the churches for all the good guys and all the churches for the evil pantheon. You have good aligned organizations like the Church of Heronius and the Church of Pellor, Church of Cuthbert, and then you have other I call cults for the evil side, like the Cult of Uis, the Temple of Elemental Evil, Textor. Pretty much every organization out there is really just a cult or a church. It's an organization. And the Temple of Elemental Evil is working with many of them on its rise during its recruitment phase. And the first evidence of that in the campaign for new players when they start the campaign is the bandits out there. Because those bandits out there were recruited by agents of the Temple of Elemental Evil. And in the T1 module, the village of Hamlet, Larth the Beautiful recruited a bandit gang. And he's using them out there to raid passing caravans and set up blame on the gnomes in the Greenway Valley. And so that way they can bring in supplies to the Temple of Elemental Evil. And the bandits don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. As far as they know, they're performing banditry on the highways, preying on merchants and getting the loot and getting paid for this. They really don't know much beyond that. But the players, as they investigate and put down these bandits and track them down to the moat house and then track down Larth down below, they start unraveling this mystery. What's really going on? Who's behind all this? And like I said before in many of my videos, the moat house isn't the only temple outpost out there. There's many others as well. Awachi did put out a module called Apocalypse. You know, it's not very good, but it has some good seeds in it. It has some really good ideas in it. And they have 4 more temples out there, 4 more outposts, one for the air, earth, water, and fire, which is really cool. And I put versions of them in my campaign world, which I'll get to later as I build this website out. So this website is to help you to reference this campaign so that wherever the players go, whoever they meet, whoever they talk to, whoever they interact with, no matter what village it is or what city, it's fully keyed, just like the village of Hamlet is. So that way you know what everybody knows. All the NPCs and characters in this campaign, the Dungeon Master will know everything that they would know. That way he can convey this information and roleplay it with the players. That's what the goal is, the idea behind this website. I got most of my information from the Living Greyhawk modules. Now the Living Greyhawk modules, I keep repeating myself in every video, you know, that campaign ran in 594 Common Year and up. I run my campaign in 576 Common Year, which is the original timeline of the Temple of Elemental Evil module. And that's what I'm running. But it doesn't mean you can't use this world. this keyed villages and cities and NPCs and organizations, no matter what timeline you use. You don't even have to run the Temple of Elemental Evil to run adventures in this area, because I'm fully detailing out the Viscounty of Verbobonc, all the way to Luna, north up the Thurandi, down to the Serene border, the Lower Milk Mountains, the Cron Hills, the Gnarly Forest, down to Welkwood, and maybe in the future I'll start tackling the Wild Coast. Just keep expanding and expanding for Dungeon Masters that want to run their campaign in a well-keyed, well-developed region of Greyhawk. That way they can actually get more of a sandbox feel, Game of Thrones type thing, what's going on with all the NPCs out there. So I like to announce that the city of Verbobonc is done. All the shops, all the organizations, all the lords, all the mansions, the military, everything's done. The next thing I did was Verbobonc, which is a village 10 miles south. That's completed. All 27 locations, I believe, with the interactive map. And then the next thing I worked on that I finished is Penwick, the township of Penwick, which is southeast of the city of Verbobonc, which is completed for about 25, 26 locations there as well. The next thing I completed was Osbury Manor out in Osbury Meadows, and with its little tiny farming community around the manor. That's completed with an interactive map as well. I can finally announce that Cienega Valley is completed. It's done. It's like 27, 28 locations, and I'm going to show you that map right now. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and show this on the big screen. Now, this is the splash page of worldanvil.com, and this is where I host my campaign world in Greyhawk for the Verbobonc area. And if you scroll down, you have my splash screen and the information what this campaign's all about. Following the Wizards of the Coast fan content policy, I rewrote every article and created all the artwork from scratch. This is all my work. And all the maps as well, I created in Wonder Draft or Dungeon Draft. And most of them, they're all going to be interactive. And the ones I've completed so far are interactive, where you can click on the location and it'll bring up an article for that location. So the first place we're going to go to is the Atlas. Click on the Verbobonc Atlas, and then Verbobonc Viscounty. And below that is Cienega Valley. I'm not a big fan of that name, but that's what it was named in Living Greyhawk, and so Anna Myers labeled it on her map, so we'll just keep going with that. I have changed a few things based off the Living Greyhawk material. I mentioned before, Living Greyhawk modules are not always coherent, and they're not always the same from module to module. They keep changing names for things like roads and rivers. Like the big merchant road going from City of Verbobonc all the way down to Selene, there's like 3 names for it. The Long Road, the Southway Road, and another, I can't remember what the other one was. So it looks like here we have 25 locations that's been completed for Cienega Valley. We're going to go ahead and we'll click on the map. Pulling it up at the top of the article, you see it has flavor text describing the location as the players get there, which is very helpful for a DM. That way he can help them keep organized with what's going on in the village here. On the right hand side is an interactive map, and every one of those are interactive. You click on it and it pulls up the article. In the bottom right hand corner it says open full size. You can actually open up this full map and be able to view it better. But right now I just want to go over the main article, which is this article, because it has a description, the history of this location, which was gained from the Living Greyhawk modules, the historic events that happened, the geography, which is the boundaries of Cienega Valley, and as part of the domain of Osbury. Now, before the year 594 Common Year in the Living Greyhawk modules, the lands of Osbury were separate from House Millennius. House Osbury had their own lands, which included Osbury Meadows, and it included Cienega Valley. And far east as the swamps, the Fens of Tor, and far west as Verbobonc, which is the lands of House Langmire. And so they had a sizable tract of land that was the breadbasket of the Viscounty with a lot of farmlands. And so I'm running my campaign 576 Common Year because I'm running the Temple of Elemental Evil campaign. So that means her domain is still intact. Whatever happened in the future hasn't happened yet. And it's up to me as a Dungeon Master when to do that. I don't have to follow the timeline in those modules. I can do it when I feel like it's right in my campaign. And so right now this is all the setup stage. This is setting the players in the story, setting it up, the locations, and that way I can run it. Continuing with the article, I talk about the culture there, which is basically a bunch of vineyards and farms. Some very famous wines come from this location. The politics right now is the pre-stage of House Millennius trying to take over. They have their own rivalry NPCs there hanging out at the local tavern. I'll show that to you in a little bit here. The religion of this area is mostly the Old Faith, because a lot of farmers, that's what they venerate. Buri and Obad-Hai. And the Church of St. Cuthbert is very strong here as well. The military, they have their own, the Mounted Borderers have their own fort here. It's one of the forts of the Mounted Borderers called Emridy, Fort Emridy. And it's right there at the edge of the town. And that helps defend the town and the region. And they also have Osbury House Guard here, guard station, the guard building. And they patrol the streets and keep law here. There's key points of interest, which is the forge, the military. The village green is a gathering place for merchants and market day. On the right is more information here. So if you're looking at this on your cell phone, you're not going to be able to see all this at once, because this is made for the computer, 16 by 9. So on a cell phone, you just have to keep scrolling to get to the second. And you got the interactive map on the right. Notable figures, which is basically, Baroness Eleanor herself, the mayor, Mayor Marcus Greensward, their family, and the canon for St. Cuthbert, and also the guild hall for the vintners guild hall for the wine industry here. And below that is, I created a coat of arms for Cienega Valley, their banner. And below that is all of the locations here that are keyed, all those links. And below that is a picture. It's a picture of one of the fishermen's docks and the bridge crossing the Nibs Run. And below that is another one just like it, but it's more of a wide bird's eye view. Now, these pictures aren't representative of exactly the buildings in the village. It just gives you a vibe, an idea what the place looks like. So let's go ahead and take a look at the map here. I'll click on Open Full Size, get to the main screen. And here is this map I created before I found Wonderdraft. I created this with another program from Steam. It was really difficult to use. I did this about 5 years ago. This is like one of my first maps. And I still think it's good enough to be able to use for this location, because it came out pretty good. It's not as lush looking as my other maps, because Wonderdraft is a really pretty graphics program. Now this one did a fairly good job, because you have to import your own objects to use this program. So the first location is 1, and number 1 is way on the east side. So scroll in here. Now the fort is pretty good representation on what the fort layout is. That's basically the fort right there. Now the road called Onivern Trail keeps going east past the fort, and that road will lead you eventually to Penwick. And so we'll click on number 1. 1 has all the tooltips are there, so you don't have to click on it, and it'll give you a brief description of what that place is. Then you click on it once, and on the left there's the article itself. It's a shortened version of it on the left. But we're going to go ahead and scroll down and take a good look at this article. We're not going to go over every location. It'll take forever. And I know not everybody wants to watch a 2-hour video. So we'll click on full, read full article. Now this is the full article. And like I said, your cell phone, so you're going to have to... Also, the map might be a little bit of a problem too, the interactive maps on your cell phones. You definitely want to use this on a laptop or a computer. But you don't have to. You can still use it. So Fort Emridy is the Mounted Borderers outpost located in this town. And it's 11 leagues south of the city of Verbobonc along the Nibs Run. There's a description of it. Now, I wrote flavor text for the entrance and the gatehouse, and then I wrote more flavor text once you get inside. Because in my campaign, the players do go there to report, to check in. It depends who the players are in your group. You might have some fighters types in your group that have a background that's related to the Mounted Borderers, so they probably want to go there to report, or they might have some questions they want answered about something going on in the campaign. Maybe they ran into those bandits and they want to turn them in for, it's a good idea. You can have a reward for bandits. The Mounted Borderers will give them a reward. But most likely, I think the guards at any of the villages will give them a reward. The captain of the guard. Either way, you can have anybody give a reward for bandit heads. So I have a description of all that stuff. The history, the politics of Verbobonc, their relationship with the roles they have with the House Osbury and the local guard and the village and all that. So it's really interesting stuff. At the very bottom, though, I added the other locations of the forts for the Mounted Borderers in the Viscounty area. So it's a quick reference. So you'll know when you're role-playing with the players, it's kind of good to know this stuff immediately so you can refer to it. Like you're heading south, okay, well, down there is this. Or in the mountain, or they talk about the gnarly forest. So we have a fort there. On the right is a picture of Fort Emridy. It's rough. It's not exact, but it's close. It gives you an idea what the fort and area looks like. Notable figures is the commander himself of Fort Emridy. His name is Commander Olean Rodrigo. That name is from the Living Greyhawk module. Like, I don't agree with these names they came up with these modules, but I guess that'll work. He's commander there, and he's got his duties and his command. He leads 30 mounted borderers there. So in my campaign, they're still there. The Viscount pulled back the borderers from patrolling the Crown Hills. So this is about as far south you're going to find any mounted borderers in the campaign, because the Viscount pulled them all back. And that's one of the things that the gnomes were having a problem with. Those bandits are out there just sacking and looting everything, including those gnome caravans full of silver and gems. I created a lieutenant. When I say created, that means I created articles for them. You see how his name is in red, the commander? If you put your cursor over it, full article for him, and artwork. I have a picture of him and everything you need to know about him. His class, his race, his hit points, all that stuff. And then lieutenant, I did the same thing for. The full article is his personality, his history. That way you can role play him, his relationships with everybody, what he thinks, all that stuff is there. And I'm not going to click on them, as it'll take forever. And then on the right, I also added more little area for the mounted border outposts, the other ones out there. Now, they're not clickable yet, because I haven't created those locations yet. I'm working my way through the Viscounty. I think after this one, I'm working on Sheer Knob, the gnome village of Sheer Knob to the south, which is south of the village of Hamlet. I'm working on that location next. I'm working on that right now, sorry. On the bottom, I added some stuff like the military forces, the typical cavalry, infantry, the guard, the officer, equipment they might have, and the monthly wages that they have, if you needed to know that. On the bottom right-hand corner, it is the herald for the Viscounty of Verbobonc. I didn't find any evidence of a different herald for the mounted borderers in any literature I ever looked at, so I assume they're just using the same herald. I could create another one just for them, but I haven't done that. Hey, if you guys want that, you think I should, let me know in the comments below. Or, this is a good time to talk about it, come to the Discord or come to my Patreon. At my Discord, we talk about this stuff all day, because I work at a coffee house on my laptop, drinking coffee, creating these articles and this artwork for like 4 hours every day. That's all I do. Just sit there and hang out and enjoy myself and just crank away. And so, at the same time, I'm on my Discord channel talking to everybody. And when I create these articles, like today we had this big discussion about the gnome clans. It's really confusing and messed up in Living Greyhawk modules. It's not good. So we had a lot of talk about that, where the clans are. And I decided, for example, clan Keeleen. Keeleen is in Tolver. The clan elder, Keeleen, is in Tolver. But also, the clan in Sheer Knob doesn't really have a clan name. So the character there is Keeleen. So I decided to have the clan Keeleen in both locations. I could create another clan just for Sheer Knob, which I did for Ostwerk. Ostwerk has half that village down there is gnomes, but there's no clan created for them in any literature at all. So I went ahead and created a whole another clan just for that location. I didn't do that for Sheer Knob, though. We'll talk about that in that video. But what I'm saying is, this is what we talk about in Discord all day. So if you want to be part of the conversation, you want to help collaborate creating this world, this campaign world, if you got any material that you want to add, some of these villages that I haven't hit yet, all the way through the Gnarly Forest, the Wild Coast, to the Valuna, to Firandi, these locations on my map that I haven't done yet. And if you want to go ahead and collaborate and add it to the website so everybody can share and use it in their campaign, let me know. Come to my Discord and we can talk about that. Okay, back to the map. That was number 1 to the east. And right below that is this big green field. That's the Village Green. That's where all the merchants hang out at on market day. And circus comes to town once in a while. See that? Circus grounds. So the circus, there is a circus in one of the Living Greyhawk modules that come around and there's artwork for it. It's part of one of the adventures, and this is where they would come. That's why I put that there. So now it's number 2 is the Druid's Grove. So let's go ahead and click on that. There's another important location. A lot of flavor text, because you got to describe the place when the players get there. Lots of reasons why the players want to go ask questions to the druid or check in with the druid. Same thing in the village of Hamlet, right? The druid there. Sometimes the player want to go talk to him. Let's go ahead and click on the full article. Now, like I said, there's artwork for every one of these articles. Now, some are like spot on. I nailed it. Some are kind of vaguely give you a good vibe of what the place looks like. I wish I could zoom in more for you to look at this. So this is the Hearth of Obad-Hai. created that name here. I always put these little catchphrases in my articles. That way it can help you use that for role-playing. Description and the history and the politics. So the politics is a big thing about this article. His opinion and what and the conversations he has and his relationship with the different other NPCs in town. And, how he gets along with House Osbury and House Millennius and things like that. Also his worship practices and rituals and things like that. And on the right is his name. His name is Tanithil, and he's a half-elf druid, level 8. And he's a primary caretaker here, and he's also the spirit leader that guides the community in the rituals and ceremonies for Obad-Hai. I got his stats here on the right, including the spells that he does have. He can cast up to 4th level spells. It looks like that 4th level line needs another bullet point. I messed that up. I should edit it right now. I got his equipment and everything you need to know about him. Now, there's a link for the Old Faith here, too. So, there's a links for everything. That way, you can stay organized. This is referenceable. You got a character, you're trying to role-play him, and it's good to know, without looking for this article about the Old Faith, that the link is right there. You can just kind of just hover over it and just scroll through it and use it, or you can just click on it and pull up the full article. Or you can just open it up in another tab, so you have multiple tabs open. But this is great for on-the-fly role-playing. Also, he has his own article as well, and with flavor text. So everything you need to know about him, his personality, and his motivation, his background and opinions, his erratic behavior, all that stuff is here. Actually, some of these articles have spoilers. And it says spoiler. You actually have to click on it to open the spoiler. And that's for DM's eyes only. So if you're a player and you want to play in this campaign, please don't open the spoilers, because a lot of the information from the Living Greyhawk modules, if your Dungeon Master is running these modules, the lore is in these spoilers of what's happening in the campaign. So you don't want to look at those. There's another quick link for the god also. So that way when you're role-playing this character, you can actually bring out the information of that god. His rituals and ceremonies and his dogma and politics and all that is here. That way the information is right at your fingertips, so you can role-play this. And I also add a lot of these prayers and sermons in the God's articles that help you roleplay as well. Things that they typically would say. That helps a lot. Keeps you more, engaged. Brings the world to life. Okay, let's get back to the main map here. And that was number 2. And number 3, the first ones are always the more important ones. So 3 is the guild. Now, flavor text followed by another NPC article for the NPC here, the guild leader. A lot of politics in the local area with this guild. All the farmers and the vintners and the wine, the sellers, the merchants, they all deal with him. He handles prices and he exports wine to different locations throughout the Viscounty and beyond, like divers. And so this is really important when you want to add more politics into your game and problems there might be having with the bandits in the area. So number 4, this is an important article. So this is the Black Griffon Inn. This is the inn that the House Millennius' men hang out at. So as you can see, it's a big article, but let's go ahead and open up the whole thing. The Black Griffon Inn, flavor text of what it looks like inside and out. You get in there, what it looks like inside. There's a tap room and dining, prices and things, and the history of the place. That way you can roleplay the innkeeper, the owner, and the politics. Now the politics talks about House Millennius. So the Black Griffon Inn plays a significant role in the politics of Verbobonc, serving as a strategic location for House Millennius. Sir Simon Millennius uses the inn to convert local favor and to absorb the lands of Cienega Valley into his own domain. That's his goal, and later on in the Living Greyhawk modules, that's what he does. He ends up marrying her, Lady Eleanor, and they combine their lands together. But in my campaign, 576, this hasn't happened yet. So this is all political tension in the campaign, which is wonderful. Much more exciting than what they did with Living Greyhawk modules later when it already happened. Before it happened, it's a lot more exciting because the players can have a direct hand in if it happens or not, because they get recruited by her in the very first mission of this campaign. So they're working with her, seeing all this with their own eyes, all this political tension, and Millennius trying to get her to obey him. But anyway, he has his men here. So the politics are here. It's an information hub, rumors and things like that. Now, House Osbury, they're aware of the strategic importance of this inn, and they do maintain a constant vigil through the guards stationed here. The guards ensure that the political maneuverings of House Millennius do not disrupt the peace. So the key role of the House Osbury guards are to maintain neutrality and peacekeeping and monitor the activities. That's what this all says. There's political tensions, which I mentioned before. There's influence and sovereignty, strategic location, diplomatic maneuvering. It's all here for you. That way you can give reason to the logic. There's a long history with House Millennius that serves loyalty for many years. So Tibor has a long history. He's the inn owner. The article talks about his relationships with House Millennius. If we scroll back to the top on the right-hand column, we have a picture of the Black Griffon Inn from the outside and some verbal text here, quotes. And then we have Tibor Timoshin. So as you can see, he's linkable. He has his own separate article about his personality and motivations and history and all that, and artwork. But we won't click on that now. But there is a picture of him right there. And we scroll down past that. There's characters and location. So I put owning organization here, so that way you can quickly reference House Millennius if you need to. Because these guys know all about House Millennius, of course. If the players get into a conversation with them, you need this information at your fingertips. They're ready to respond to their questions. And also there's characters and locations. Now, the first one is Alara. She has her own article, her own personality and background and things like that. And she's the serving girl. And below that is the Captain Grayson. So Captain Grayson Reed is captain of House Millennius and his men. And he has his own article too. His own that you can click on and read all about him. So if the players ever go there, they're going to get into a lot of discussion with what's going on. And especially if they're working for Lady Eleanor. And they see these guys here kind of throwing their weight around in the inn, trying to saying disparaging remarks against her and putting down the guards in this area and how they're going to make things better. So maybe the players might get into an argument with them. Who knows? We'll see. Also, I added, sometimes I do this. I should do this in every tavern in the whole campaign. I think I did most of them. But I created a menu of drinks and food. I'll click on that for you so you can look at it. I share this on my Patreon too, so you can actually download the PDF and print it up for your players. As you can see, everything you need to know about it. I added getting drunk rules too, if you want to use that. That's a lot of fun. And I created some of these drinks from scratch. I just made them up. Some of these drinks come from the Living Greyhawk modules, like Herman's M's Special Blend. That's something from Living Greyhawk. And some of these others I just made up myself. And others I got from the Village of Hamlet, like Celine Ruby Wine. That's a common one for Greyhawk. All right, let's go back. I got back to the main article for Cienega Valley. We'll open up the map again and take a look at the next location. That was number 4. Number 5 is a really cool place. I won't click on it, but it's a shop. It's a shop to buy almost anything. They sell supplies, traveling supplies, and food and things like that. And you can also sell things there as well. The character there is really interesting. See, it has this unique personality. I even have maps of the different levels there too, in case the players break in or want to steal from her. Number 6 is an important location too. This is the Chapel of the Cudgel. Lots of flavor text. You gotta really describe this place when they go there. It's a pretty big article, so let's go ahead and open it up. Now, this is an important location. Obviously it is. Look at its center location right in the middle of the map. The Chapel of the Cudgel article, after the flavor text, there's more description of the history, the politics, and the relationships. And look at this relationship list. It's a blurb and a bullet point of his relationship with every single other NPC in town. That way, when the players go there, this NPC can comment about this kind of stuff. I think I need to go through all of them. When you first create the NPCs, you create the first one, you can only relate him to the second one, and then you create 2, then you can relate him to the third, and you create 3, then the 4th, and after you get like a dozen NPCs, the 12th one has a lot of information in his relationships with all the other ones. So I need to go through all of them again and update all the relationships so they all can be matched in the same level of detail, if you know what I mean. So, conclusion here is that this is the Chapel of St Cuthbert, vital part of the valley and community support. I have maps here. On the right-hand side, there's a picture of him inside his nave, inside the church. The symbol of St Cuthbert. The priest himself has his own article, of course, too. His name is Ostel, and everything you need to know about him is there. I won't click on it. And below that is the map of the church in case you need it for your campaign. I get these maps from Forged Studios. They give me permission to repost them in my articles, and they're great. They're great to have in case if you need it. You know, it's nice to have if you need it. That way you don't have to worry about it. Back to the map. That was number 6. Number 7 is Greensward Manor. It's fully described what it looks like inside and out. The butler, the family, the kids. That's the home to the mayor, and he is a relative, a cousin to Lady Eleanor. So it's a really strong relationship there. And he has a lot of information there about his relationship with all the other important NPCs in town. So if the players go there and want to talk to him, you know from the article, he has his own article for the NPC and an article for the location. So there's a lot of information there you can use if you need it. And then the next location is number 8. Now this is the Shining Temple of Pellor. So this is like the 3rd location in town that is a place of worship. There's a Druid's Grove, and then St Cuthbert Chapel, and now you have the Temple of Pellor. Let's go ahead and click on that real quick. How do we do this flavor text? I know some Dungeon Masters need it and love it, and it can be very useful. You don't have to read it verbatim, but it's useful to have. Besides the description, is customized information of the dogma and history of this place, and the politics they have, and the relationships. You see how the relationships are growing as I created more and more NPCs? That's why I meant I had to go back to the first NPC and add these NPCs to his article. Look, going over this with you guys, this reminded me I have to do this. On the right-hand side, top right-hand corner, is the picture of what the temple basically looks like. And then the high priest, Yvonne Cross, has his own article here, as you can see. Everything, look, all that information you have of him. And then I also have brief information about him, too, on this page as well. And then another picture of him inside the church, which looks really cool. That looks like a priest of Pellor to me. And then the symbol, the holy symbol of Pellor at the bottom right is something I created as well. I'm trying to recreate everything, so I don't have to use anything that's been published previously for IP reasons. Also, as I've done before, now Pellor is a hyperlink in this article. If you one of the words of Pellor, you can click on it and it'll take you to the god Pellor and what you're used to seeing on the internet. But I rewrote it, of course. Like I didn't mention it in this video. I rewrite things to be more clear, concise, with lots of bullet points, brief, not wordy, so that way it's highly referenceable, so you can reference this stuff easily while you're running the game. Now, I always recommended people read the original articles. You know, they're wonderful. They have everything. They have all the information there, but they're really hard to reference because they're so wordy and block of text. And it's a lot of it isn't very useful while you're running the game with players sitting at your table. Another thing I listed here was the Church of Pellor. Now, the Church of Pellor is an organization. So I created the god Pellor. Then I created this location, the Temple of Pellor, and the Church of Pellor is an organization. It's the whole organization of Pellor and the Flinness. Everything you need to know about them, which is really, really interesting. Not only is it useful for running as a DM in the campaign, but if a player wants to be a player of Pellor, a cleric or a paladin of Pellor, that's great for him because now he has more information to roleplay from. He actually comes from an organization, one that's been written. It's documented, which is really cool with all these NPCs. Okay, back to the map. You know, you guys could go to the World Anvil and follow along with me on this. You know, it's a public website. You don't have to log in or anything. Now, that was 9, and after 9, I have to look for this. 10 is across the river. I didn't create these in order of geographic location. I created them in order of importance. So number 10, across the river. Let me zoom in for you. It's a trade house. They sell and trade wine from Cienega Valley, from the different farms, the different vineyards. As you can see, it has the main shop, and then the building to the right is the barn for the wagons and the horses, the draft horses. And then to the right is another little building for imports and export, with the docks and their own pier, their own docks, that way in the boats. So that way they can ship up and down the river. Now the river isn't very navigable. The river isn't very navigable up going south towards village Hamlet. It only goes for a couple more miles before it gets too shallow and narrow. But this river is capable of river traffic by small boats going north up to the city of Verbobonc. I want to click on this because I did something a little bit extra here. And I never really talked about this before, You know, I talk a lot about flavor text and stuff, but what I do also add to the articles is spoilers, which I told you before, which is coming from the Living Greyhawk modules, the adventures. This article does not have a spoiler, but what it does have is dialogue. As the players approach the shop, it's possible for them to eavesdrop on the conversation he's having with another merchant. This is campaign world immersion. It helps bring the campaign to life. The world is living and breathing without the players there. It brings it to life to where the players are part of the world rather than being the only people in the world. And so this conversation is going on between the two merchants, and it gives you a hint of what's going on in the area. And when it brings it to life, it makes it more real. And I think that's interesting. You know, it's just an option to use this stuff because it's I encapsulated it in this box here. And as you can see, the political relationships is getting longer as these articles get bigger. And the owner here has his own article. So most of these locations have their own article for the owner too, the important NPC. Not all of them, because I felt like, I'd never get this campaign done if I wrote a separate article for every single NPC of every shop in the whole world. But only the important ones I feel that need to be done. That way, if this NPC gives the players a quest or information or asks them to do something, and you can link them to him specifically, not just his shop. You got to remember that this website is great not only for running the campaign and referencing things in the campaign. This website is wonderful for session reports. That way you can link all these linkable articles in the session report itself. Like in the session report is, we stopped by Cienega Valley, that's a link. And then we went to the shop, that's a link. And we talked to this guy, and that's another link. And we talked about this, and he gave us this quest. And so then we returned to this guy, I link it to him. So in the session report, every important fact that happened in the campaign, where they went and who they talked to, is all linkable to the actual characters or organization or location in the campaign. Okay, and on the right hand side is a picture of him and the shop, the crossroads there. And I didn't put I made him more flamboyant because he's a wine merchant, and I put some of his description here on the main page too, like I usually do. That way you don't have to actually look at his main article. And on the bottom right is his hired help. So he does have 4 porters in the back rooms, and the shopkeeper's helpers that work loading and unloading wagons and boats at the docks. And I gave them names and hit points and things like that. And also below that is maps of the location. Maybe the thief in the party wants to be up to no good, and he wants to investigate in the basement and find out what's really going on down there. Maybe you as the DM did something with that location. Something's happening. Or he's investigating some rumor you've heard of. So at least that's there for you to use if you need it, which is wonderful. Back to the map. 11 is almost the same thing across the road next to the market. This is another shop, a wine merchant shop, more of the same. And in front of it is not a keyed location. I probably should have keyed it, but the Cienega Market, that open area right there, is the main intersection of this town. Let me zoom out here. As you can see, the road north goes to Verbobonc. See that right there? and so does Nibs Run, goes north, right? They're parallel to each other. And then as you go south down the Val County Road, the long road, whatever you want to call it, leaving Greyhawk, I swear. And if you go south off the map, it leads you to the village of Hamlet, the Val County Road. And in the middle of it is the market. So this is where they have the open market with the stalls and the tents and things like that. And 2 shops right there. Okay, number 12 is back across the river on the east side. Now this is the mill. This is the mill. This is where they bring their grapes to get pressed. The mill that creates the grain, all that stuff. This is the one big mill for the entire village. And as you can see, he's got a windmill right there. And it's kind of on top of a hill a little bit, overlooking the river. But let's go to area 13. I'm not going to key every building. We'll give the Dungeon Master something to do. 13 is across the river. Now this is another mill. This is the water wheel in the water too. There you go. So I did key this. This is the Potter Mill. The Potter Mill has a big family. And all the wife and the children, it's all detailed and keyed out for you to use for role-playing purposes. Let's go to 14, which is across the river to the east. This is the bottom right-hand corner called the Tornal Ranch, another big family. And they're the ones that have, it's more of a, this is an actual ranch. They have cattle here, cattle and horses. You'd figure that it would be logical to have a ranch in a village this size for their meat. You know, like sheep and cattle, sheep and cows and horses and things like that. And you see how big it is? It goes right off the map. It keeps going. I should have put a road. I have a road, the Gleaming Road. I named most of these roads. That way, when you're asking for direction in town, the local NPCs will tell the players, yeah, go down. It's the end of Gleaming Road. You'll find the ranch. You can't miss it. I should have put another road going to the south here, past it, going off the map. And what I should have done is have the road go past the ranch and keep going to the east. I didn't do that. I should have. But let's go ahead and just look at the brief article. More flavor text, description of the fields, the pastures, the history there, the relationships he has with all the NPCs. A lot of this ranch and farm relationships are more important with the guild leader of the guild hall, which is here. And also, the meat quality here is renowned for their tenderness and flavor, making it a preferred choice across the region. The cheese it produces by the ranch does not match the unique flavors of the gnome cheeses, but is really good. In fact, I just remembered, let's click on it. So I'll scroll back all the way to the bottom. On the right is him, his wife, and his children. You notice they're not linkable. I did not create separate articles for these characters because I didn't think I needed to. But they can still be used for any purpose you want in your campaign. But what I like about this is I put a little bit more effort into this article. Besides that, on the bottom right-hand corner is the cheese. So I created actual description on the bottom right, a description of the cheese and how much it cost, how much it sells for. Which is interesting because this is another item besides the wine that you can find in a bandit stash, what they looted from caravans, from the wagons. It could have been the cheese. And this character, NPC, could offer a reward for the return. Or putting a stop to those bandits, just like the village of Hamlet. 15. It's the village green. There's artwork there and what the place is for and the politics and all that. About the mayor and Fort Emridy puts on parades and things like that, which is interesting. And you could have this parade day or celebration day there, and it describes what that's typically looks like on days like that at that location. 16 is the same thing, but this is a caravan campground. This is the mounted border or drill field. And so you'll see the mounted border is often drilling out there, you know, charging back and forth. Let's take a look at it because I did some cool artwork for it. And it's not just a drill field, but look at that. It's also where they put, this is also where the mayor hosts jousting events, jousting tournaments. So you have a player like a paladin or a knight in your group, and they want to participate in a joust. Maybe a player wants to participate in a joust to not only win a prize and money, but to win favor with the local lord, like the mayor or House Osbury. You can pit him against like knights from, like the captain from House Millennius, and other hedge knights in the area. Actually, there is a hedge knight in the inn that's hanging out, and he has his own side mini quest. I didn't point that out when I showed you that place earlier, but I added little things like that in these locations to help bring the campaign to life. So these locations aren't just bare. There's a lot added to these locations, and if you go through them, you're gonna find little nuggets like that. And this would be really cool to have an event that's coming up soon or that day of a joust. And if one of the players might be able to participate in that joust. That'd be a lot of fun. So that's what this location is for. It's a multi-functional use area. Besides, you know, the jousting, the barony tournament, you have the borderers doing their drills, or sometimes they use it for a large campground for like the circus that comes to town, like I spoke of earlier. Okay, way across the map on the southwest corner is the Cienega Vineyard. Now I want to look at that, not just to show you that the family, the wife and the kids and all that, you know, what they produce, their history, politics. But what's really cool is on the bottom right-hand corner and the bottom is the wine they have. Tierra Reserve 570 Common Year. So I created 2 wines for this location. There's another vineyard here that I created a wine for too, artwork and everything. So that way, you not only can you order this wine at the tavern to have it with your meal, but this stuff can come up as loot in the merchant caravan or the bandit horde. They might have a case of this stuff there that they looted a long time ago, and you know, this NPC wants to know what happened to it, and so you could possibly get a reward for that. And you know, like I said my last video, having real concrete items like this in a campaign world brings it to life, rather than some nondescript, mundane treasure loot that you find in a horde, which is really boring. This actually gives it flavor and brings it to life. Okay, after 17. Up to 18. 18 is the Greensward Estate. It's the home estate for the Greenswards. If you read the history of Osbury, her mom and dad, one of them was a Greensward, another one was an Osbury. That's where they got their name from. So they're cousins. This is the big manor, the big estate. It's got artwork and descriptions and everything. We don't have to look at it, but it's everything you need to know is there, plus artwork too. After 18, if we go scroll down to the south, near the big market here, is an important location called the Sword and the Forge. Now this is the town smithy. Lots of things can be procured here, made. They can fix their armor, repair items. That's an important place right there in the middle of town, which is great to have. In fact, it's good to know this information. There's only a couple smithies in the area. The smithy here, and he's very talented, but this is Cienega Valley. His main clientele is the mounted borderers and the farmers in the area, you know, plows and things like that, and horseshoes. The other smithy is in Penwick, but Penwick is in the lands of House Millennius, and it's like 6 miles away from House Osbury Manor. Osbury Manor does not have a smithy at this time. If you watch that video, I talk about how it's empty, and she's desperately looking for a smithy. And as part of the first campaign, the first module, the Living Greyhawk module that leads into the Temple of Elemental Evil, it's the first mission they're on. It has something to do with that, which is really interesting. But yeah, there's only a couple smithies in the area. So there's a smithy here, smithy in Penwick, and there's a smithy in Etterbook. And that's it. There's no other smithies in there. And then you have a smithy down in the village of Hamlet. And I don't think there's a smithy in Sheernab. I know there's one in Ostfirk. So as a DM, it's good to know where the smithies are and how hard it is to get supplies. I had demanding players in my campaign that demanded to buy plate mail. It's insane. You know, it takes 6 months for a blacksmith to create a set of plate mail. These big shops in the major cities have a crew of master smiths that can come out faster every couple of weeks. But there's a waiting list for that stuff. It's nobility and captains of the guard, you know, captains of the militia and things like that. They're the ones that get the plate mail first if they can afford it. And so, you know, they can create these, but there's a waiting list. It's hard to get. Just go out and just buy plate mail. There's no plate mail hanging on a hanger in a shop anywhere unless it's used and it's just been repaired, and they can buy it that way. Okay, next is next door, right near the river. This is the leather and hide and harness shop. This is where you can get leather items repaired or made. It services the community. We don't have to look at that article, but it has its own artwork and information and background and politics and motivation. So 21 is next to the church, the two churches in the guardhouse, and this is the Hasty Pixie Apothecary. This is an interesting character, very unique, some great artwork, and it basically has potions you could buy there and a lot of components you can buy as well. And it's also a source for quests. In fact, let's go ahead and take a look at that. Okay, the Hasty Pixie Apothecary article, now it has a description of everything you need to know and in relationships. That way if you get in conversation with this person, they definitely have an opinion in a relationship with all the other NPCs in town. You know about his history and about his politics, but what's interesting is at the very bottom, this is one of the spoilers I was telling you about. So if you're a player don't watch, I'm going to click on it, show a spoiler. Now you have a quest here. There's an objective, the details of the quest, and the reward for the quest. This is just one thing typically I'll add to some of these locations. You click on again, I'll close it. In the top right hand corner is a picture of him, the owner, and his description. So I did not create a separate article for Fionn, but it's all his personal information is here on this article, and some quotes that he would typically talk about. In the bottom right hand corner is sales and services. These are things that they could buy, the players could buy. These are just examples. You know, the prices don't have to be, the prices might not be exact in your campaign. I just gave it as a general price guide. You're welcome to use it or just omit this completely. But, you know, I like to add little things like that to give more value to these locations. Okay, so that was 21, the Apothecary. If we go north up to 23, this is a cool little place. It's a little tiny hermitage. It's Bambus. He's a respected fisherman. He's also a basket maker, but he's retired. He's a paladin. He's a retired fighter, a warrior, or a paladin. So this could be another background for a character in the campaign. You know, not all players want their character to come from like the big city, you know, like the Silver or something like that, or the Temple of Heronius. And then maybe they want to come from a small town, and maybe they want just an unknown master that trained them in their art of being a fighter or something. And this is a good NPC for that. You know, this NPC not only will teach him those skills, but teach him the skills of basket weaving and fishing and boating and rope work and swimming, you know, all that stuff that comes with it. So this could be, he doesn't have to be from some exotic location like the gnarly forest or something like that. He could come from some place like this. You know, he'll be a little different. His character would be. Well, this is not typical of what most players can think of for their backgrounds. So I think it's a cool location for somebody that could be from, you know, the background NPC that supports them and gives them training. And if we look at his side article, his background was he lived here his entire life. He served in the Battle of Emridy Meadows. He's an experienced worldview and deepened his dedication to St. Cuthbert. After the battle, he returned to the peaceful life, his craft here of fishing and basket weaving. He's got his opinions, politics of the different NPCs here in town, and there's a picture of him in the article too. So, you know, he's a cool guy, you know, and he can teach you to be a fighter or something. It's pretty neat. Okay, back to the map. That was to the north next to the river here. But if we go all the way south to 23, at the very bottom of the map here, this is just another farm. This is another farm that has more wine. I created more artwork for another wine and a description of that wine. So it's another location for wine that you can add to the campaign. The next location is way to the northwest. This is 24. This way out here is the Carting Coin. This is a Wainwright, a wagon shop. You can buy and sell and repair wagons here with their whole family and wife and everything, and the Teamsters. The Teamsters could, maybe one of them as a bandit. You know, that's something that the Dungeon Master could add to the campaign if they wanted to. You know, things like that. They do things like that in the village of Hamlet, by the way. But this is a location you can play around with. I didn't add anything like that to this location, though, but all the meat is there, the information you need to pull something like that off. After 24 is the last place, I think, is 25. This is the Vartia Vineyard, and this is another wine that I created for the campaign. So a variety of wines that come from the Cienega Valley that's being delivered up and down the Nubs Run or up and down the Merchant Road by wagon, depending on the destination. So bandits are out there looting these wagons. You're definitely going to find crates of this stuff in the loot. And you'll know where it came from. The players will, or they'll find out anyway. And there's a person that highly interested. There's an NPC that's highly interested in that if they do recover their product. And that wine is called the Vartia Reserve 568 Common Year. It's a prestigious wine. It's known from around the Viscounty. The grape is used by vintners of the wine cooperative and grown in the prime parcel of land between Fort Emridy and the town's wine market. It's a deep red wine. I talk about the flavor, its color, its aroma, the barrel aging, flavor profile. It's 3 gold pieces per bottle. It's pretty expensive stuff. And I think that'll help bring the campaign to life. Okay, this ends update 10 for the Verbobonc Campaign Guide 576 Common Year. I hope you liked what you saw so far. I'm able to announce that the villageship of Cienega Valley is completed. It's done. It's ready to be used in the campaign. Currently, I'm working on Sheernab, the gnome village south of the village of Hamlet. And from there, I'll probably go to Ostwerk. I need to remake that map. But these maps I've made myself, and you can use them in your campaign. So if you want to participate, in the conversation and help collaborate with this project, please come to the Discord channel, come to my Patreon if you want to support me. If you like what you've seen so far, go ahead, come pop in, and maybe you can actually help out with the creation of this stuff or editing of the stuff I've already created.
Did you enjoy video? Consider tossing support on my Patreon. It's best way to support orcs. If you would like to see more content, subscribe and post comments below. It better not be bad.
I hope your players have as much fun, adventure, as my players have Temple of Elemental campaign.